Hi folks, this is Gabe at Security Baron, and maybe you feel a little bit of anxiety whenever you have to jump onto a public Wi-Fi network. Well, let's see if we can ease a bit of that anxiety as we check out the Private Internet Access VPN. In today's review of Private Internet Access, I'm going to look at the pros and cons, features, conduct some speed and leak tests, review the subscription details, customer support, and finally, that mobile application so that you have all the information you need to know if Private Internet Access is right for you. Now, if you'd like to see a list of our favorite VPNs, Google Security Baron Best VPNs. If you have a question about today's review, leave us a comment and I'll get back to you. The first thing I want to go over in our review of Private Internet Access are the pros and cons, beginning with the pros. Well, Private Internet Access logs hardly any of your data. We're quite impressed with the way in which they protect what you're doing on your computer. Now, another element that was really impressive were the high ratings in both the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. So both iPhone and Android users are enjoying their experience with the PIA, Private Internet Access mobile application. Now, when it comes to cons, you know, they're located in Denver, Colorado, which is a part of the United States, which is a signatory to a host of international surveillance programs. So one could theoretically think about a situation in which they are legally forced to hand over your data that, of course, they don't actually keep. Now, the final thing that we'll note is that the reviews that we saw regarding customer support were rather mixed. So it doesn't seem to have the best customer support experience. Now that we've gone over the pros and cons of Private Internet Access, let's check out its features, beginning with data logging. Now, data logging is something you don't want at all with your VPN. And then to a certain extent, you don't want it even with the VPN company itself. And this is where Private Internet Access does better than most, because not only do they not log the IP addresses you use, the sites you visited, but they also don't even log that you logged into the VPN or how long you used it. So they do a really great job of protecting your data in that sense, and it does make me feel a little bit better about them being located right here in the good old US of A. The next feature that we'll talk about with Private Internet Access is the kill switch feature. I know that name is a little bit aggressive, but it does mean something positive. It means that if your VPN goes out for any reason, it will automatically disconnect everything so that you don't have to worry about being exposed with whatever you are doing on your private network. Now, it's also referred to as a network lock feature, and it's just something to protect you and whatever software and websites you're using on your VPN. Now, if you're someone who wants to be both on a public and private network at the same time, something referred to as split tunneling, you will not be able to do that with Private Internet Access. It's all or nothing with Private Internet Access and no split tunneling. The final feature that we'll discuss today with Private Internet Access is Netflix, and whether or not you can use it, and the answer is maybe. There's a constant battle between Netflix and VPNs, and with Private Internet Access, they do not seem to have found the key to have it be a constant thing that you can do. So maybe you'll be able to use Netflix, but we can say that you'll generally be able to torrent. So to summarize the features for Private Internet Access, you've got logging data? No, it doesn't happen. When it comes to the kill switch feature, they do have one, fortunately, but you will not be able to split tunnel. And when it comes to Netflix, just maybe, luck of the draw. And when it comes to torrenting, yes, you will be able to torrent using Private Internet Access. So now let's do some testing of the Private Internet Access VPN. Now, there are a lot of factors that go into affecting the speed of any particular internet service, but just to provide some transparency, I used an Asus VivoBook and a MacBook Air in Brooklyn on the Optimum network. So that's what I was using in order to conduct these speed tests. Looking at the speed test, Private Internet Access performed better on my Windows computer than it did on my MacBook. While I was super pleased that Private Internet Access didn't create any latency at all on my Mac, it did slow down download speeds by about 65%, which is a bit higher than average, while upload speed was slowed down by 30%, which is pretty middle of the road. On the Windows computer, however, the download speed only slowed by less than 15%, and the upload speed by a little over 5%. If I had to choose, I'd recommend private internet access to a Windows user over a Mac user if you're looking for a super speedy connection. The next test that we're gonna do for private internet access is the domain name server leak test, or DNS leak test for short. And that's what you do 1,000 times a day when you type in google.com or wikipedia.com. It's the actual IP address underneath that search. Now, fortunately, there were no leaks when we tested private internet access, and all my web traffic stayed encrypted. Now, the final test that we ran on private internet access is the WebRTC leak test. And WebRTC means Web Real-Time Communications. And that is basically when two computers connect directly to one another without going through a server, something you do for something like video chatting, transferring large files, and honestly, it's the default for a lot of programs that you're used to using in browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Opera. Now, you want to make sure that your private IP address remains just that, private, when you're doing any of those functions. And fortunately, with private internet access, there were no WebRTC leaks, so that private IP address that is on my site when I connect directly with someone else remained private. All right, let's check out the subscription options with private internet access. Now, there are three. You do monthly $6.95, yearly $39.95, and 2-year contract $69.95. So you're looking at some pretty steep discounts if you're willing to lock yourself in with private internet access. But don't worry, you got a 7-day money-back guarantee if you don't like the service that you get with them as a VPN provider. And what do they provide? Well, they provide switching between unlimited numbers of servers. You can use an unlimited number of devices, and you get 10 simultaneous connections. And not only that, but you have a host of manual configurations and supported browsers to use with private internet access. So let's look at the customer support for private internet access. Now, you only have a couple of ways to get in touch with the company. You can either check out their online help center, which actually is in a way getting in touch rather than just getting maybe some answers to your questions, and then you can fill out an online form. But I would love to see something like a live chat feature, just something that gives you a little bit more of a sense of urgency or immediacy with whatever concerns you might have. Now, looking at the Amazon reviews, it gets a 3.6 out of 5-star rating, which is pretty decent. And of the reviews that mention customer support specifically, a little bit over 60% of those are positive, with most people saying, okay, yeah, they got in touch with us relatively quickly. But then you have, a not insignificant percentage of people saying, hey, we didn't really get the information we needed, or it took them a really long time to get back to us. And that's something you don't want to see with your VPN provider. So when it comes to customer support, it seems to be a bit of a mixed bag. Now, the final thing we'll go over today looking at private internet access is the application, which can be found Windows, Mac, Linux, Chrome, a host of places, but we'll specifically talk now about the mobile application, which fortunately for us has tremendous reviews, getting a 4.6 in the Apple App Store and a 4 in the Google Play Store. So people love it on mobile, which is pretty great because a lot of the browsing that we do these days happens to be on our mobile phones. You just want that experience across platforms to be intuitive and smooth, and you're clearly getting that with it on iPhone and Android. So now I want to recap my experience with private internet access, beginning with some of the things that I liked, and it starts with the data logging policy. They really are ahead of many of the other companies when it comes to data logging, and the fact that they don't really do any of it. So you can feel pretty safe with them having your data. Now, another thing I loved is the seamless, smooth, intuitive process of going between platforms with their application. You know that if you're on Linux or Chromebook or your iPhone, you're gonna have a pretty solid experience with their application. Now, when it comes to things I didn't like so much, that really begins with the customer support. You don't really have a timetable for when you're gonna get a response, and there's really only one way to contact them. And when you're looking at VPNs, there can be times in which you need urgency, or you have some immediacy with your issues, and you definitely want a customer support team that's gonna get back to you immediately. Now, when it comes to Netflix, the fact that you can sometimes get it is not really enough, and I really didn't like that you don't have a split tunneling option. So those are some things to be aware of in regards to private internet access. So that concludes our review of Private Internet Access VPN. If you appreciate today's video, give us a like and hit that subscribe button. As always, this is Gabe Security Baron. Be secure.